It's Corso and Catone. Brought to you by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Now for the real deal New England feel. Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe is with us in the booth, and you are watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, anywhere you podcast, you can catch us. And 790 The Score in Providence, Rhode Island. And hey, make sure you give us a call in heated hotline, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S. Anything's on the table 24/7. Give us a call, leave us a message. And you can email us in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. Hey, got a good one. And B's and C's, well, just C's, really, I think, because we're going to be talking finals as the Celtics make their way closer and closer to a championship. And, of course,
you keep wanting to bring up B's. Well, I got to hear B's. Come on, Chris.
There are no B's. Well, but Joe has the nice wash that has the B's involved in it, too, so we got to have that as well. And you hear them already, so stick around for Catone's comment. You don't want to miss that. And in Pat's Nation, welcome to the hall, Tom. Gentlemen.
Hey.
What a week. What a week.
Yeah.
What a week.
Definitely been a week, hasn't it?
Crazy.
So,
yeah,
it is crazy. And you know what else is crazy? They're pretty close to winning the championship right now.
Yeah. They're going to sweep. I think they're going to sweep.
One away. By the time you people are watching this out there, you know, we're recording on Thursday. They had just won game 3. But you know what? Let's get into it in B's and C's. Joe?
Hit it! The Celtics are the world champions, and they have shown the world how great a ball club they really are. Screenshot
Mark, as I said, they had just finished up game 3 to us anyway, which was last night. We're recording on Thursday. Take that 3-0 lead. And it's interesting. And I know we want to go back. We want to kind of look at that. We want to talk about how they're handling Luka and Kyrie and so on. But when you go back and look at that game, they could have very easily lost that game.
Absolutely, they could have lost that game. You're up 21. And then you give up the big lead. You absolutely could have lost that game last night. Listen, it looked like it was going to be the same old Celtics again, didn't it? In game 3, they got it. I think they got a little tight, forced a couple of shots, but then they righted themselves. How did they right themselves, Chris? Defense.
That's it.
They got some turnovers. They forced Doncic into some mistakes, fouls. They played some smart basketball down the stretch. And Chris, listen, throughout the playoffs, whether it was the Indiana series, Miami, when games got close, Cleveland, this team has made the right decisions with 3 and 4 minutes left to go in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, it's always been about the defense. I mean, you and I talked about that coming in, that, hey, look, how are you going to deal with Luka? How are you going to deal with Kyrie? Well, you're going to deal with them. I said they had never seen guards, guards that can defend like Drew Holiday, like Derek White. And I'll throw Jaylen Brown into that mix too, because he's been every bit as good as and important of a defender as you could possibly get throughout this whole playoffs, especially in this series. So, it got a little tight. They came out, and we're talking about game 3 because that's the most recent game. But you come out, you take their best punch, and you knew you would get it. And then, you battle back. Before the half, it becomes a 1-point game. And now in the third quarter, they build a big lead. And Dallas made that run. So, Mark, were you nervous? Because I was concerned because of the way they were playing. They were stagnant. The defense was everything just offensively too looked just stale, and they looked like they were in a state of panic at that point.
They did. They definitely did. They looked like they were in a state of panic, and but they righted the ship, Chris. And who hit the game was a 3-point game, and who hits the big 3 to make it a 6-point game? Was it not Derek White?
Yeah.
Right? Down the
It
stretch.
was. Yeah.
They jumped, and then that was the end of the game. So, again, Holiday, White, guys that you said, and I said from the beginning, if they won it this year, that's who was going to make the difference, would be Holiday, White, those guys. Porzingis, obviously he's not playing right now. It wouldn't necessarily be Tatum or Brown, and it wasn't. Last night it wasn't anyways. But Tatum, Chris, I am going to give him credit and say this about him last night. He played better defense than he's played throughout most of the series. I thought personally last night. He had played some good, he was moving, he was picking, he was rolling off of potential screens to make deep, tips, so knocking balls out of guys' hands. He played some defense when he had to. He made switches. He was on lively. I thought Tatum, Chris, played well defensively last night, better than he's played. He showed more effort on defense last night because the other night, everybody praised him because he almost got a triple-double. But I thought he was lazy on defense. Even though they won the game, last night, Chris, I think he showed a different type of intensity on defense.
Yeah. Okay. So we want to know. Okay, if we want to talk about Tatum right now, okay, here's what I'm going to tell you. It's he right now. This is the most polarizing thing going on as far as talking about Jason Tatum. Okay, and so you have one group that's saying, hey, look, this is a complete basketball player. He's giving you what a basketball player should give you. He's giving you assists. He's giving you rebounds. He's giving you some points. So when you got a line like in game 2, which was 18, 12, and 8, 9, something like that.
8 or 9, something like that. Yeah. Yep.
You go one side that's saying, hey, he's contributing in different ways. He's assisting. His passing was fantastic. No, he's not scoring the ball, but he's helping you win in different ways. And you get the other half that's saying, no, you need to be scoring. You need to be a superstar to win. And Mark and I talked about this at length and the back and forth of it. I mean, where do you sit on that right now? Because for this series and for this playoffs, that seems to be enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. It is enough in these playoffs. But Chris, you mentioned he don't need to be a scorer. He can distribute this, but he took 22 shots. I know we're talking about game 3, but he took 22 shots, Chris, in game 2. Did he not? Didn't he take the most shots on the team?
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing.
Night?
Yeah, see, that's the problem with this entire thing is he took 22 shots, and so he's 6 of 22, which is a horrible percentage. Okay. And he takes 22 shots. So when he sits in the press conference and he says something like, hey, I don't need to score the most amount of points. I don't need to be that guy. I can find other ways to help and distribute and all that. It's a little disingenuous to me because you took the most shots. So you were trying to be the leading scorer, but you just couldn't come through. So to me, it's like, okay, well, that's a failure. I mean, 6 of 22 is horrible. If he took 14 shots and he would say 4 of 14 was having a bad night, I'd say, well, okay, he only took 14 shots, 15 shots. He understood that he had to do it in different ways. This isn't really understanding I got to do it in different ways. He did it. He had 12 assists, but he still took 7 more shots than the next person. So, I mean, what do you make of that? That doesn't really seem to be a huge sacrifice. It just means you shot like crap.
Yeah, you shot like crap. And it fits Mazzulla's philosophy, Chris. He wants them to take 35, 40 threes a game. So if you're taking a bunch of threes and you're missing, as long as you're hitting a couple of them, that's what the more you take, as long as you're hitting some of them, because you're out shooting them in regards to the number of attempts, Mazzulla's okay with that because that fits into his analytics of because we're getting threes and we take more than shots than you, we'll win the game. And they've been doing it all year long, Chris, right? They've been doing it all year long. Now, last night, the game's close late, 5 minutes to go, and your buddy Doncic picks up his 5th foul, sixth foul. Talk about that.
Why is
'Cause
he my
went
buddy?
berserk. He went berserk. No, I'm being facetious. I know you can't stand him. He went berserk, Chris. Berserk. When they called that sixth foul on him. First of all, was it a foul?
Absolutely. It was a foul. It was absolutely a foul. He's coming in. He's still dragging his foot. His other foot is implanted. It's a blocking foul. That's not a charge. And the better question is for Doncic, instead of bitching and complaining in the press conference, which these media people, if they had any eggs, they would ask him, and say, hey, to us, it looked clearly like a foul. Why would you put yourself in that position to have to even put it in the official's hands to make a call? What are you doing? Why are you in that position with 5 fouls, Mark?
Yeah,
He's a baby. He's a friggin' baby. That's all he is. That's all Doncic is a friggin' baby.
It was a poor decision, Chris. I think he was a little gassed. It was a poor decision, but we've been saying, you and I, that in order for Dallas to steal a game, he's going to get 30 and Kyrie's going to score over 30, and maybe they got a shot. Well, last night, Doncic ends up with 27 before he fouls out. Kyrie get 30?
He hit the 30 mark.
Okay. But yet they still couldn't beat us. Why?
Well, I mean, listen, here's the problem. I feel like if he didn't get that, if he didn't foul out, I think we were going to lose that game.
Oh, here we go.
I'm not. I mean, look, you blow a 20. You got a 20.1 point lead, okay, and into the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden, here it comes. Now they're making that run. The crowd's behind them. Everything's, the place is going crazy. The Celtics look like they were in a state of panic at that point, and they get it to within 3 points, and he gets a 6th foul. I mean, is there something in you that thought they weren't? I mean, did you think?
And I'm going to be honest with you, Chris. In all honesty, after he picks up the 6th foul, both teams go down, and I think the Celtics turn the ball over. Dallas goes down. I think they turn the ball over. Then each team misses a couple of shots, and then eventually, I don't know if that's when Boston hits the 3 or they go back. They go 4, I think, or 5, and then Dallas goes down and hits a shot, but it wasn't fluid for a couple of minutes there after he fouled out. Both teams went back and forth. It was kind of rough. And then eventually the Celtics took control. But if Doncic was still on the floor, you're right, Chris. Does he hit a couple of shots to give them the lead by 3 or 4? And now all of a sudden you've got a different game down the stretch. Because you and I, before the series started, if the game's close late, those guys close. Him and Kyrie close. Kyrie didn't close yesterday, but Doncic wasn't on the floor either. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think they would have closed. I mean, every indication leading up to that point was he wasn't missing, and our prediction still holds. If the two of those guys get into the 30s, they probably win the game, and they probably would have won that game too. So this was really on Doncic for making playing stupid and putting himself in that position, Chris, to fall out of a finals game. Not even it's not a random, Wednesday night in the middle of January. It's the NBA finals. And you put yourself in that position? No, you can't do that. And like I say, he's just a baby. Like, instead of bitching and complaining to the officials and in the press conference after that, I guess you can't be physical or whatever nonsense he was spewing out. Look at yourself, man. What are you doing? Wow. So yeah, I think the Celtics, definitely dodged the bullet there. And I thought coming in, they would lose game 3. When Porzingis being out, I figured they would lose game 3, but they didn't. I mean, they came and they close with defense, and that's what they've done in this postseason. They did against Indiana. They're doing it against Dallas, where if things do get tight, they close with defense. It's a defense from the guard position,
which has been dominant all year. It's really been dominant in the playoffs. Okay, so let's assume the Celtics are going to either sweep this team or win this in 5. Let's just make that assumption. I know at this time, it's 3-0. When the show airs, it might be over. Maybe the Celtics sweep them. So if they say they hypothetically sweep or win it in 5 in dominant fashion, is this team? Did they have one of the all-time great seasons? This team, Chris, because that's what everyone's saying. If they sweep this team in game 4 and that's it, it's over in 4.
Well, a lot of people are saying, okay, well, you look at it, the 2017 Golden State Warriors, right? They won, what do they win? Like 70 games, and then
Something like that.
They buzzed through the playoffs and won the whole thing. Well, okay. Celtics have won 64 games. They'll only have lost 2 games in the playoff total.
Yep.
It's a different path, though. They're not one of the great all-time teams.
What do you mean?
Because look at what happened. They had to play Cleveland. They had to play the Heat. They had to play Indiana, and now they're playing this team. Look, those three
they beat
teams,
the teams that were in front of them.
Okay, but that doesn't make you an all-time great team. Look, those teams that they had to play, their best players were out for the series. You know, at multiple points in the series. So you're not dealing with those full-strength teams. Meanwhile, you come into the finals and you're playing a 5 seed that only has 2 guys deep. That's it. 2 guys. So how can you tell me that that's one of the great all-time teams? Just because you say, hey, look, you line them up, we knock them down. That doesn't, it makes you a great dominant team this year that could beat all the bad teams and beat up all the crap and guys that are hurt, but it doesn't make you an all-time team.
No. And I would agree with that, Chris. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, they're a dominant team this year for the way things lined up, and I'll give them credit for that. But listen, when you talk about, Chris, the all-time great teams, and I want to get into this for a minute. When you talk about the all-time, an all-time great season or team, Golden State has Curry. The multiple, that would be Miami or whoever, they had LeBron. Obviously, Chicago, you had Jordan. The great 86 Celtics had Bird. The 08, Celtics had Pierce, Garnett, So do we have that? Those teams usually have that dominant, the game's on the line, give me the damn ball. Like, Curry did a couple of years ago. He came into the Garden. It was game 6, and he said, yeah, this game's over. Give me the ball. It's 4th quarter. It's over. And then he did the night. Walking off the court and looked at the crowd. Is Tatum capable of that?
Well,
Brown,
he hasn't
somebody?
been. He hasn't been.
So in order to be one of those teams, Chris, though, do you need that performance from a guy like Tatum to say, yeah, it's over. I just scored 40 and on your home court, and I was the best player on the planet tonight, and it's over. Close the doors.
That seems to be the NBA. That seems to be what we've seen in the NBA over the years. Now, again, this is a collective team that can win, and maybe you don't need that. Again, it all comes back to, okay, so if we fast forward a year from now and they're playing Denver, okay, and you're not getting that performance out of your best player, are you in this position? I don't know. I would have to say no. You and I have argued that no, they wouldn't be if Denver was here. That the best player on the court would be Jokic, and that would be the end of the story. So again, who wins the MVP then?
Listen, going into game 3, Chris, the odds-on favorite in Vegas was Tatum.
And then he scores 30, 31 points, and that kind of cements it. Say, well, he wasn't scoring points now. He scored points in that game.
And if he scores 30 in game 4,
right, then he's the MVP. Because to me, he was third. To me, I had like Holiday, Brown, and then him. And then he goes and scores 30 points, so he inches his way closer. And you're right. If they have a closeout game 4 and on Friday night, then I guess he's going to win the MVP. And so the last thing I'll ask is with Kyrie, okay? Because Kyrie's had a bad series except for game 3. Game 3, he gets into the 30s and so on. And a lot of people say, well, did Boston get to him? It's the defense. It's the guards that got to him. Are we not right when we said they have not faced these kinds of guards defending like this?
No, Chris, you hit it before the series started. You called it, and it's the truth, Chris. Kyrie, the crowd didn't get the Kyrie. Drew Holiday and Derek White got the Kyrie. That's why Kyrie didn't do anything at the Garden, and that's why. Yeah, he scored 30 yesterday, but you know what, Chris? With 5 to go to the 4 minutes to go in the game, Doncic goes out. Kyrie hit one shot. They still shut him down. He didn't take over and take them home.
Yeah. The bottom line is the Celtics are a better team all around. You're playing a 5 seed. You should do what you're doing to this team. It's what should happen. It's what we thought would happen. And by the time you're all watching this, is I think it's going to be a sweep now at this point. So to me,
yeah, it's going to be a sweep.
That's what it's going to be. And so when next week we'll talk more about hopefully the champion Boston Celtics and how it got here and break it down.
And what does that actually mean in history? Yeah.
What's it going to mean in history? And we'll talk more about that. So, but B's and C's was presented by Corso Law Group, corsolawgroup.com. Hey, when we come back, buckle up. Catone's comments is next.
No one ever thinks they'll be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer. But things happen. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, go to CORSOLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Time for Catone's comments!
So this week, the show was called Welcome to the Hall, Tom. So this was a special week. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit later about the event that Chris and I actually went to. We were there live, and we were there. So in preparation, I went and I said, you know what? Tuesday night, I went and bought a couple of things that I figured I'll need, take to the hotel, whatever, right? So I forgot one thing or two things, and I'm like, shoot, I really should run out and get it because I'm not going to have time in the morning, whatever. Okay, so I go to a local market, and I get there, and I get what I needed, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go check out, and I go to the self-serve checkout, avoid people. Well, this closed, self-serve's closed, and nothing's open. I said, what are you kidding me? So now I look, there's one register in the whole place, one open. Okay, so I go to that register. This lady is moving. I mean, I can't drive 55. I thought Sammy Hagar was going to start to sink in the middle of this place, right? So all of a sudden, here she comes with the shopping cart. She cuts me off. I got one thing in my hand. And I looked at the lady, and I smiled, and I said, oh, hi, how are you? Good evening. Yep, I think I'm holding up what I got. I got one thing, two things, maybe I think I had one thing and a teeny little thing in the other hand. And she looked at me. She turns her back, and she starts taking her stuff out of the cart instead of letting me go, hey, go ahead, sir. You only got one thing. No, she's not going to do the decent thing. No. So she stops emptying out the cart. Listen to me. There was cat food, dog food, bird food, fish food, some exotic animal food. I don't know what. I never saw it. What it was. I don't know what it was. Then she's taking all other things out of this cart, but all the animal stuff was on top of her, like meat and different things. I'm like, look, where is this lady going? She going to Noah's Ark. Like, what's she doing? You got more stuff in there. It's like she's going to Noah's Ark. I'm like, wait a minute. What is this lady doing? Really? Are you kidding me? So now I'm like, well, I'm going to be here a while. I go on my phone. I'll look at some emails. I'll respond to a couple of texts because this lady, it's endless. It's endless. All of a sudden, my wife, where were you? Where did you go? Where did I go? I'm in the store now 20 minutes to get one item. I'm getting texted from my wife. Where are you? Well, of course she's asking, right? So now I said, okay, we're almost done. All of a sudden, just the exotic food for whatever animal she got didn't ring up. Oh, here we go. Lady hits the buzzer. I need a price check. What? A price check? Where were you going to get a price check for this thing? I got to get out of here, right? Okay. They get a price check. Now she's checking out the lady. She gives her a card. Decline. Now the card's not working. I'm saying to myself, okay, if they're going to empty these bags out, I'm going to be here another half hour. I got to get out of here. Now I'm ready to lose my mind because I'm calm. I'm sitting there. You know me. I'm as calm can be. Now, the lady gives him another card. That one goes through. Now she's leaving. She leaves. I say, yeah, nice. Have a nice night. Yep. I get to the register. The lady's looking at me like I was impatient. What? I turned to her. I said, do you have a manager here? Like, I want to tell the guy, you can't hire more staff because the reason the self-serve was closed because they had nobody working that could monitor it. They're afraid people are going to shoplift going through there. They need somebody to monitor the self-serve checkout. So they had nobody working, so they couldn't. They only had one register open. Are you kidding me? I must have been in the store for 40 minutes to buy one item. I think I ended up buying two, one little other thing, but one item, 40 minutes. And you know what the kicker of the story is? I was only in there because I had to get this item for Chris. Because I said, you know what? If I'm going to show up to the hotel room, I got to get this for him. So I showed up, go for him, and I'm there for 40 minutes. And that's the moral of the story. Please don't let me go to. I can't go to a store. I say this numerous times over and over, and I don't listen to myself. I still do it. I do it. I'm a glutton for punishment.
Wait a minute. First of all, okay, what is this item that you needed to get for me?
What?
What item is it you needed?
Hot tamales.
Oh, the tamales. Yep.
Okay. For those of you, okay, out there, all I could say is you at 2 a.m, you were shoving hot tamales like 10 at a time into your
So, you know, well, Joe, he doesn't understand. You know?
I don't get it.
Listen, you go with him. He needs. You got to bring snacks for him, Joe. He's like, you know, you got to bring M&Ms. You got to bring Reese's Pieces. You got to bring hot tamales. You got to, you know, you got to bring all these things for him.
That
you
is
know,
not.
You got to bring cookies, popcorn. It's like you're going away with your kids. So I bring all these things with me in a bag for him, and that's why.
Look, like I said, all I could tell you is Mark was shoveling hot tamales down his throat like 10 at a time at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So don't talk about things you're gonna get from me. But Mark, let me just say this, okay? Does your wife listen to the show? Because you know, you're kind of mean. I mean, you're mimicking. You're kind of making fun of how she talks and all of this.
How did I mimic her? I said that she texted me.
Yeah, Joe. I think he said talking like this. So you're gonna get in a lot of trouble. You're gonna get in a lot of trouble when you go home. That's all I could say. Listen, why didn't you help the lady? Why don't you give her? She said she ran out of money. Okay.
She didn't say she ran out of money. The thing got declined.
So why don't you give her the money then, Mark? You know?
Do you think I was touching anything in that? Wish the woman had more things in that thing. I don't know what she was buying. I don't know. I'm telling you, it was either she was running she lived on a farm, or she was going to Noah's Ark. Because I don't know who would have bought those different foods for animals. And I'm an animal lover.
So you don't. I was going to say you don't like people or pets.
No, I do like pets. I got a dog. He barks. You hear him.
Look, Joe, I don't know. I mean, you know what? Maybe you should have, before she got in front of you, maybe you should have tripped her like you did your neighbor in the snow. Maybe when you tripped that guy in the snow.
Listen, he fell. I didn't trip anybody. He fell. It was I felt bad for him. I went help him up. I shoveled his path for him over there that day.
Nobody can prove it.
No,
nobody.
one can prove
Joe, listen.
So the moral of the story, once again, as we always say, is what?
What?
Don't go places. Don't leave your house. Don't leave anybody.
I went for you.
Well, I'll let you all out there decide whether or not he went for me when I watched you, what you were doing.
Listen,
with all those.
I got a bad tooth. I got to get it pulled. I can't eat that stuff. My mouth is swollen, Joe. The left side of my mouth is swollen.
Well, Well, listen, Mark, that's it. Don't go into stores anymore. You don't want to help anybody. You don't like the fact that people have pets and they're buying pet food or any of that. So, you know what? That's it. You get to stay home. If you see Mark out there, just stay clear of him and let him cut in line. Will you please? Look how miserable he is now over it. So, good stuff, Mark. Catone's comments was presented by Bar 101. Keep it simple. Hey, Bar 101 in Johnston, Rhode Island. Make sure you get in there. They got good food, good spirits, good people. Mark, the food is good there.
Oh, the food is fantastic. They got nice drinks too. They got bourbon. They got all kind of stuff in there. You can really enjoy yourself. You go in there.
So make sure you get down there to Bar 101 in Johnston. Keep it simple. Bar 101. Hey, when we come back, Tom Brady, Pat's Nation, he's going into the hall. All that and more. No flipping.
Mark, I'm serious. I think I lost my mind.
Certainly, it was an exciting show.
I want Murray.
What?
That's
crackers?
it.
What is wrong with
Get him on this damn
you?
show.
Lost your mind tonight.
That's all I have to say.
Lost your mind.
What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the real deal New England Field. It's going to be real.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. All right, so listen, welcome to the hall, Tom. Pat's Nation. Joe? So listen, Tom Brady was inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. Mark and I were there. We saw it happen. We saw all the festivities, and I'll tell you what, Mark, I want to know your impression right off the bat, but I thought it was a great event. Just the whole event was great. And we get on Kraft a lot. We get on Kraft for not spending money, for being cheap on players. I wish he would spend it on free agents more, but this was bear no expense event.
It was a first class event, Chris. They gave out gift bags when you walked in with stuff in it, with bracelets and magnets and T-shirts and all kind of different things. It was first class. They brought over 100 ex-players were there. They had different groups of players speaking about him. It was first class. They had some videography of the Brady family talking about Tom on the video board. Of course, they were there live as well. It was a first-class event. I am going to say that, Chris. I mean, you're inducted into the Patriot Hall, but as you and I were sitting there, we're like, okay, so obviously he's the greatest to ever do it, but what other organization is going to have an event like that for a player that's going into their Hall of Fame? Like no other player, I don't think, has ever had anything like that done for them and had 70,000 people, 60,000 people there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing that struck me was the fans. I mean, 60,000 people. I can't imagine that happening for anyone else on any franchise, any team, anything like that. Not in the modern day era, in my opinion. And so the people were great. Again, it was a first-class event. Now, there was some redundancy. I mean, how much, what you're going to say about Brady, and you heard all the things we've always heard, the work ethic and the good person that he is and how he pushes and nobody like him and that kind of thing. And so it becomes redundant because that's what you say. That's what everybody says. And you did hear that a lot. But talking about the people that were there, okay, I mean, first of all, non-players. I mean, they had about 100 players there, would you say? Is that what they talked about?
Least,
and then some of them were more highlighted than others. On the stage, they had four seats in addition to Tom Brady and Mike Tirico, who was the MC for this. That's a big deal, too. He's a national guy. I mean, he came in to do this. And then they would bring position groups, basically, onto the stage. I'd bring like the receivers, and they would bring the quarterbacks to get up there and talk some defensive players. And then you had a secondary stage, which was great. You had some other players come up there, but then you had outside people. Jay-Z starts the event, Mark.
Yeah, well, so if you went to the games over the years, just before Brady would come out of that tunnel for his warm-ups, they would play Jay-Z, and he'd be, let me reintroduce myself. And then you knew that was Brady. There's the music. And he'd come charging out, and then he'd do his let's effing go. down, right? And that was, and you know, that was Brady, right? So when they started it last night, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? There was smoke on the stage. Brady was already there, so you're like, what the hell are they doing, right? And then all of a sudden, from the smoke comes Jay-Z, and the place went berserk,
Yeah, they
absolutely
went wild.
berserk. You
They
know,
went wild
because
for him.
nobody ever even thought Jay-Z, and Chris is like kicking me. Who's this guy? He don't even know. The dinosaur, Joe, didn't even know who it was.
If it's not REO Speedwagon or Journey, I don't know who the hell is out there. You know what I mean? I
Oh,
don't know.
my
All I hear
God.
is just a lot of music happening. But they had other people. They had Kenny Chesney that did a.
Yes, you don't even know who he is either.
But evidently he's popular and he was there and he did a tribute song and all of that. And of course, Bon Jovi, he's a fixture over there. He was there.
He was there.
You had video tributes coming in from Bono, but it was all related. You know, like U2 did that song.
It's a
that they
beautiful
play-
day.
The beautiful day that they play in the stadium every game. And so the story goes that Bono figures out that that's what's happening in the stadium every game. So he's thanking them for keeping that alive and so on. And they performed it at the halftime of
The
their first Super Bowl
we won. Yeah.
So it was all tied in. And then you had other celebrities, you know, Matt Damon, and you had some other people that came out and gave tributes.
Well,
And then
they
you
had,
some,
of course, they had Eli Manning, who they booed
well,
furiously, right?
oh my God,
They had
he was probably booed the worst.
uh,
Was Eli Manning, Michael Strahan, Patrick Mahomes. You know, they all give a little video. You know, congratulations to Brady, and then Peyton Manning was there. Mark,
shows up.
I thought that was a great.
That was a great thing. And and he said what he said about him. And every time Peyton speaks about him, he gives you a little bit more of, like this time he told you something you hadn't heard before, that it was banter between Manning and Tony Dungy, so he gives you a little bit something else every time he talks about Brady. And that was cool that he showed up in person. And then we saw him, Chris. We think he went out in a helicopter after behind the
I
stadium.
think so.
You could see it.
Yeah, but he,
Right?
and he's saying things about like Tony Dungy said, "Hey, look, Brady's on the other sideline, so I want you to score, but don't score with too much time. Score with like 6 seconds left of the game. And he's telling Manning to do things like that. So there was some, and Brady said what we've always said. Best pre-snap quarterback ever, Peyton Manning. Where he comes up to a line. And so there was a lot of that happening, and that was great. And as far as the players, for the Patriots, former players and even players from different eras, you're there with the Red Jackets, Andre Tippett and guys like this that were there, Stanley Morgan, these guys, all coming out for this. And it was nice because they brought up, for example, the quarterbacks. You have Matt Castle up there, Brian Hoyer, and then you had Josh McDaniels up on the stage to talk about. But what struck us funny was what? When those guys came up, Tirico asked them a question, didn't he?
Tirico tried to get them to be a little bit honest about when you were in the room with him, like what were the conversations? What would he say? What would he notice? What would he, and they were all very guarded in their answers. And Tirico kept like probing them to draw something out of them, but it was like they're in the stadium. It's back to that mindset. It's the Belichick, hey, listen, we're not giving them any information, but it's almost like they're stuck, Chris, in that mode because they weren't really saying anything.
It's been drilled into them by Bill.
Yeah.
Don't give anything away. Don't talk about anything. Nothing. Everything that goes on in this building stays in this building, right? And so that's what you got a lot. But I'll tell you, Randy Moss, one of the best moments of the night was when Randy Moss was up on stage and the receivers were talking, and the place went crazy for him, and rightfully so, Mark. But they went nuts for Randy Moss, and he was driven to tears.
Yeah, that was something I don't think Moss expected, Chris, that reaction when they saw him on stage and introduced him. And yeah, he was moved to tears. He was crying because I don't think he thought the fans appreciated him that much, which we obviously did. And I think he was just taken aback by that,
Yeah.
So,
It was good. And then, we kept asking ourselves, to each other, and we were talking to people before the show. Joel will get some of that aired at some point. Some interviews we did with some of the fans and people of what they expected, and there was a lot of mixture about, is Belichick here? Is Belichick going to be here? Is he here? What is the situation? And when they came out, Deion Branch and Troy Brown came out and were talking about some things, and they said, Deion Branch said that there's four things. There's four things that make this franchise what it is, right? And what were the four? The four were what? The fans?
The fans, right? He mentioned Tom Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady was 3. The owner was 2. Tom Brady was 3. And then at that moment, you knew. Before he said number 4, who's coming? He said, and the best the number 4 reason, the best quarterback, the best coach of all time, and out comes Belichick. And basically, with this keynote speaker, Mark, what was the reaction?
The place went bananas. It was almost like it was a playoff game. The crowd just went nuts, and I don't know if they expected that. I you know what it was? With all the video recordings, I think the fans probably figured if Belichick shows, it's going to be a video on the video board wishing Tom luck. Like, I don't think after the Dynasty, that stupid series, that anyone thought he would show, but he showed. And listen, let me tell you something, Chris. It went on for 5 minutes. He couldn't speak because he was just drowned out by the crowd, and he kept waving and he acknowledged it and soaked it up. And you know what, Chris? It was a little bit of a rub it in your face a little bit to Mr. Kraft. Look what, it's, you know what I mean?
Well, because, he comes out and he starts talking about, naturally, he starts talking about the system. And listen, he gave Brady his props. I mean, he told him, look, you're head and shoulders above the world, everybody. I mean, that's clear. But he talked about the coaches that helped there and Skarnecchia and all of the coaches and the defensive players. And he talked about the McGinnis, that era, and talked about the second decade of it, where he was talking to, like, some of the other guys like the Will Forks and talking about McCourty. And he mentioned
Hightower,
Talib.
Aqib Talib. But there was somebody he didn't mention, Chris.
Yeah, see, and that to me was noticeable, that he had nothing. Gerard Mayo. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, is that intentional?
Well, because, Chris, he always said Gerard was one of the smartest guys I've ever coached and been around, and he was basically the coach on the field. He always sung Mayo's praises, Chris. So at an event like that, if Mayo wasn't the new head coach of the New England Patriots, if Mayo had gone off into the sunset and didn't take that job and stayed loyal to Bill, in Bill's view, Bill would have definitely brought him up, Chris. But it was not just that. Mayo was taking shots at him in some of these press conferences. You don't think Belichick knows that? Of course he does. Like, he said, oh, I don't know what the Patriot way is. You don't know what the Patriot way is? What? What are you talking about? So that was intentional. And there was one other person, Chris, he did not mention.
He didn't mention Kraft. He didn't say anything about Kraft.
And he didn't have to mention him by name. He could have said, we had a great ownership. He didn't have to mention him by name.
No.
He didn't even say that. Nothing.
No, there's definitely that. There's definitely that between them. I mean, that dynasty that came out really, that was a mistake. That was a huge mistake by Kraft. But you know what? Belichick showed up, got a 5-minute ovation. He could tell he loved every minute of it.
Of course he did. Because, Chris, he got to reminisce and talk about the good times and the championships. And then he started talking about different plays Brady made. And, Chris, he just he still remembers things from like 04. He talks about, and Tom went around the end and he went in the end zone and he spiked the ball. And if you asked him, and what was the defense, Bill? He would have started to tell you what defense the team was in.
What coverage were they in? Yeah. It was amazing. And those to me were two times the standouts. I mean, Belichick, of course, and then the Randy Moss moment. That was another one. And I really liked the family stuff. I mean, when they showed the video of the family sitting around the table sitting around the kitchen table talking about Tom as a child and how he grew up and those kinds of things. I enjoyed that part. I did.
And then of course, Chris, there was Brady himself. And he had some things to say that
and we're gonna get to that. We're gonna go to break and we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about Brady's reaction. Gonna talk about some of the fan reaction.
Yeah.
All that and more. Stick around.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. CORSO Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, talk with these expert attorneys. CORSOLawGroup.com.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. Okay, so listen, we're talking about the enshrinement ceremony with Brady. We talked a lot about our impressions, who was there, who stood out, but we want to talk about some of the fans too, right, Mark? I mean, we met
a bunch of them.
We met a bunch of them. We got to talk to some of these people, and there were some characters that we spoke to beforehand. Some of the things I'm not sure we could play.
And I think Joe's going to slowly every week put one on.
Yeah.
It'll take us a few weeks to get through all of them. But listen, we told people, hey, you're going to be on 790. You're going to be on, YouTube. You will be. Just you're going to tune in every week because we're definitely going to get you on.
There was one in particular, Joe, I'm not sure if you have that.
Oh, yeah.
But there was one in particular, and I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was Andrew. Okay. But, you know what, Joe? Play it.
Corso and Catone out at the Tom Brady enshrinement ceremony. Have a huge fan with us today. What's your name?
Andrew.
Andrew's from Rhode Island, and let's take a look at that belt. Mark and I are with them. Tell me about the belt, first of all.
It came from WWE. They did a line of these last year. I jokingly sent my wife the email about them, just like, hey, wouldn't it be neat? The next thing I know, I got the confirmation email saying I'm getting the thing. I'm like, oh, she actually did it.
So there's no question you're a lifelong Patriots fan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are you expecting tonight?
I'm hoping for just a lot of fun, a lot of stories, stuff we haven't heard before. I don't really come with many expectations, just that I just want to be able to take it all in.
Yeah. They said there's some surprises tonight, right, Mark?
A lot of surprises. We'll see what it is.
Yeah. So, and then afterwards, you take it in. You think this is it for Brady coming back or what?
No, I'm sure he'll be back, every once in a while whenever Fox lets him out of announcing that week. But might be a little while before we see him again.
Right. Well, listen, we appreciate fans like you. And
Andrew, have a fun time tonight.
Yeah, have a good
Thank
time.
you.
Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England Field Saturdays, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern, 790 The Score. Thanks, Andrew.
No problem.
And so, yeah, we do thank Andrew and all that. We talked to some other people. And like we said, Joel could be putting these things up. So keep checking out X and some of the other outlets. We'll put some of these things up for you, for you people to see. But I wanted him to play that because we talked about Belichick, right? We talked about the Belichick effect. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't just affect the players, does it? The people are guarded too about a lot of people we spoke to said, well, what are you expecting this? It's like they don't want to divulge anything either. Well, we're not really sure what to expect. And it's always that. That's the culture, Mark.
This culture, it's just something, Chris. It's something that's like a once in a lifetime. Unless you live in this region, I think nationally people just don't understand and don't get, Chris, what this phenomenon was for 20 years. You know what I mean? Brady, Belichick, what the success. Like, people outside of New England, I don't know if they truly understand it, Chris. And in fact, I know they don't.
No, they don't. They don't understand it from any portion of it. Even the sense of coming up, driving through the woods, and all of a sudden coming out of nowhere, and there's the stadium. And I've talked to I've talked to a lot of different a lot of different former players that are in that situation, and they always thought it was really weird playing there, because you'd be in the middle of the woods and all of a sudden there was a stadium, there was something there, But so the fans, Mark, how'd you think the fans reacted tonight?
The fans were great, Chris. The fans were absolutely fantastic. They were, listen, that was their guy. It's Brady. They showed him the love. And as the guy, Andrew said with the belt, hopefully he'll come back. But this may have been the last time you see him here in that stadium for a while. And it was just the fans gave him their appreciation. And I think last night, Chris, was a great ending to, I think, that era. I mean, they were all here, right? Edelman, Gronk, Morse, obviously Belichick. And then you had the earlier guys. You had, McGinnis and Law and all those guys and Bledsoe. And that whole era, it was like a celebration on the field of that whole 20-year run. And last night, Chris, was like, okay, now I think you have to turn the chapter, close the book, put it on the shelf, and just acknowledge that it's something we'll never see again in our lifetime, I don't believe. And from time to time, you could take that book off the shelf and say, wow, remember this, remember that. Like, it'll be great memories. But last night, Chris, closed the book, I think.
Yeah.
So now it's time to, and it's a little sad, right? It's sad. Because you and I, our life, I mean, this is our passion,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it is, and it is a little bit sad. And you would have liked to see this be the thing and not the dynasty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those episodes really brought, for as much as we looked at those and said, oh, man, that really brings it down. It just left a bad taste in your mouth, For all of that, this was the opposite. This left a real good taste in your mouth. And I thought the fans, talking about the fan reaction, and we'll get to Brady's in a second, but I thought the fan reaction was spectacular. I mean, for 60,000 people to come out there and, and even before, there were people out there from 2:00 in the afternoon. It was a 7:00 event. There were people out there from 2:00 on everywhere, Brady jerseys. It was just, and it was a good time. A lot of people enjoyed it. There was no tension. And I thought it was handled properly. It was long. It was definitely long, the whole event. But I thought it was done really well. And I thought the fans came out and showed up as they always do. Now for Brady, okay. What do you think? How do you, his reaction, his demeanor, some of the things he said, what stuck out to you?
So I'll say this. The one thing that stuck out to me, because I know you got a bunch of other things you want to bring up, Chris. The thing that stuck out to me was, listen, we've gone back and forth. Was it Brady? Was it Belichick? Was Belichick more at the beginning? And then it became Brady. And then, he said, listen, it wasn't me. It wasn't him. It was us. And that's the Patriot way. It was team. It was us. It wasn't me and it wasn't him. And he put an exclamation point on that stage, that this is what it was. And this is the Patriot way. And that's why we were who we were. So the place erupted when he said it, but he's right, Chris. That's what, and it was just a 20-year journey to get there. And there were ebbs and flows and teachings but he was right. It was us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that for sure. And, some of the other things, hey, listen, you could tell, he obviously has his next gig coming, which is the, Fox. He's going to be broadcasting for them. You could see he's trying to, get he's articulating really well. Maybe he went to some classes or whatever. So he articulated pretty well. And I don't think it was, and a lot of times Brady catches crap for just pandering, playing up to whatever crowd and whatever situation he's in. But those were genuine emotions. I mean, I liked his reaction about his family, his friends, and some of them were there and how they stood. Because look, I mean, he talked about people who stood behind me when it was tough. So how tough could it have been for Brady? I mean, he had everything. He had the nice family, he had the job, the money, the success, all of it. But he had a target on his back, too,
Mhm.
a lot.
Yeah, he did.
You know, he really did, and he needed people around him, and to see those moments and to see his reaction to those moments about the family was really, really nice, Mark. I thought.
It was. And Chris, the other thing is he showed some raw emotion. He got choked up a bit when Kraft said, "And there'll never be another person to wear number 12." He showed a little bit of emotion there when Kraft said that. And listen, nobody should ever wear that number again. You know, and you and I were a little surprised because we didn't know there were that many numbers retired by the Patriots.
They said this would be the 8th one. This is going to be the 8th one that's
They
retired.
don't really publicize it, but listen, they retired the jersey, and then the one thing he said after about the statue, I'll let you talk about that because that was something you always said should be outside that place, and you were right, Chris.
Yeah, he said they commissioned a couple of people we talked to outside the stadium, and over the next several weeks, Joe will be playing them. Actually, one of them mentioned that. Oh, maybe be a statue or something like that.
He did.
And so they're going to make they commissioned someone to make a bronze 12-foot, of course, 12-foot statue of Brady that's going to be placed outside of the Hall of Fame. Outside the Patriots Hall of Fame. And I think it's great. I mean, you can't do enough things for a guy like this. This is not just, this is the best player of our franchise in history. No, this is the best. To me, this is the best football player of all time. Of all time. This is like Joe DiMaggio kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And so you do as much as you can do. And I think it's fantastic that nobody's ever going to wear number 12 again. And they're going to have that statue. And it's well deserved. And the other thing too, I'll say is, I especially liked what he talked about with the youth, with the young people, talking about, because everybody talked about his work ethic. You know, that he wanted to win. He was a competitor. He outworked the room, and his whole thing talking to kids out there was play football, do it, because it brings to you so many. And I've always said this, and it's the truth. He said, football's hard. It's tough. Getting up at 5 a.m, going to practice before school, you know, doing all these things, and you may not even play. And you're these kids that are doing this day in and day out. It's hard. It's the hard that makes it worth it. And it makes you understand what life is about. Though that moment when he talked about that really resonated with me, Mark.
And as a coach, you coach kids, you coach high school kids, so you know exactly you know what he's talking about, right? And that did resonate, and I think that was really genuine, Chris. Because I'm going to be honest with you, he was one of those guys, kids, because when he was in high school, he had to fight for everything he got. He wasn't the superstar when he got to Michigan. He didn't play when he first got there. He had to fight his way onto the field. You know what I mean? So he was that guy that gets up at 5 a.m, not knowing if he's going to play. But he's practicing and he's trying to get better every day. And so, yeah, that was a great message.
So, you know, the whole thing, obviously, like I said, it was fantastic. It was well done. No expense, you know, they bore no expense on this. It was first class. It was deserved. It's Tom Brady, Mark. It's Tom Brady.
It's Tom Brady. What did we expect, right? And listen, for all the stuff we give Kraft, it was a night that will be etched in everybody's mind. If you're a Patriot fan and you were there, it's something you'll never forget. That the crowning of Tom and the end of that era. But it didn't have to end the way it did, Chris. That gets me how it ended, because it shouldn't have. It shouldn't have. But last night was a great event.
And you and I put that on Kraft a lot. We put a lot of that on Kraft. You can put it on Belichick too, but we put a lot of that on Kraft. But for now, you know, we're going to give him his props.
We're going to celebrate the event. It was a great moment.
It was fantastic. So, and listen, there's another special thanks to Bar 101 in Johnston, Rhode Island. Make sure you get out there, see them. Good food, good spirits, good people. Hey, Bar 101, keep it simple. Corso and Catone was presented by Corso Law Group. Get on, watch, listen to all our shows. They're up for you. Subscribe, give us that thumbs up, and make sure you come back next week, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have, hopefully, Celtics championship talk and talk about what's next for them and what happens there. We'll have some baseball talk, Catone's comments, anything you bring to the table, we will be ready. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Now find Corso and Catone on AM 790, The Score, iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you podcast. Or subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch the chaos every Saturday at noon.